Hello, welcome to the Cafe Nightly Show. I'm your host, the Goldsmith. It is the 21st of October, 2024. It is a Monday. We start the week off with not a whole lot. The Monday Watch Party, always a thing, or I should say, has been this season anyways, since it started in week number 3, I believe. With week number 4 for the NFLPA this year. That will continue on throughout the season, and that is going on or has been a part of this evening as well. The Upland Purge event does have an update, and that is a milestone by the community. Essentially hit a milestone that Upland asked us to hit. So instead, they increased the milestone. And again, you keep what we kept and get something more in the return. We'll take a look and see what that looks like. Task reminders, I do want to do that because we are a few weeks into the season. We are a few weeks in. We're 3 weeks into the season. We are headed up towards a cutoff date for the 30th of October. The 30th of October is a snapshot that's going to be used for a payout, for a airdrop payout. So do want to make sure you get as many of those tasks done as you can by then. So just do a reminder on that, and then that's it. Getting the week started, continuing on, and knowing that we are in harvest season, know that we do have a number of things we've had drop in along the way. We've had a couple gamified layers here, and oh yeah, it is, and it was today the end of the newest and the most recent limited time build structure, the condo in New Orleans. That is done. You had your chance. You should have taken it. It's too late. If you started that structure, keep in mind you have as long as you need to complete that. You can prioritize completing that structure. You can do other structures. You can build other structures in the game of Upland if you choose. But if you didn't start it by now, hi, Blue, good to see you. If you didn't start it by now, it is too late. And I do want to put a note on that as well. That means there are more structures still coming. You got to take them seriously as they come. It doesn't mean that, you lost out on something miraculous you can never take part in again, but you did lose out on that specific structure, and more to come in the future. And this is a fun part of this continued emphasis in New Orleans is the center of building right now in the game of Upland. That's where all the incentivization from Upland exists to build, to earn some more sparklet. So it's where people are going to continue to build. And again, having this variety of structures drop in for limited periods of time, that is a lot of fun, encouraging that continued building in New Orleans as well. Let's get the disclaimer out of the way so we can get on to the other things. All views and opinions expressed by myself, they're mine and mine alone. Should we take as game strategy or financial advice that represent the game of the team of Upland? Any views of contributors or guests, they have their own opinions. They're welcome to them. Should we take as game strategy or financial advice does not recommend or does not represent the game of the team of Upland, does not represent myself, the Goldsmith of the Cafe Nightly Show. So we have to go back before we can go forward. And what we're going to go back to is take a look at the task that we have for the season, the harvest season task, knowing that we are 21 days into the season, noting that 21 days into the season, we do have a couple things that maybe it's too late to complete. If you haven't started yet, at least. If you've started, you could be on your way. But if you haven't started yet, it's a little too late to start them for the snapshot, the upcoming snapshot on the 30th. You may still be able to, if you start them today, you may still be able to complete those same tasks by the 15th of November, which is the following snapshot for this season, for the harvest season, the end of the harvest season, and the final snapshot of the season for Sparklet Airdrop. Good to see you, KO Ninja. Glad you can make it. Let's take a quick look. At those tasks as a reminder. If we are too late to get a couple started, there's a lot left still there. Reminder that every Tuesday, tomorrow included, we're going to have another mystery task get dropped upon us. And so far, those have been things that have encouraged us to do. It's as like a call to action. It's encouraged us to do something, and expect the same to be the case with the reality that all the tasks that have dropped this season are still open now. So if you haven't done any of them, you can still go and try to do them before the end of the season. As a reminder, like I said, if you haven't started doing some of these, it's not possible to do them by the 30th. It is possible at this moment, this particular moment, and there's not a lot of time left to do it. But as of this moment, the 21st of October, it is kind of that line in the sand. If you don't start today, you're not going to finish many of these by the end of harvest season. If you haven't started some of these, you can't complete them by the 30th, which is an airdrop. That's our line in the sand. So if you had not started 25 days logging in this season, if this is the first day you've logged in this season, you still have the chance to log in 25 days this season to get the check mark for the task called Harvest Regular. Again, that is something you can do by the 15th, not something you can complete by the 30th of this month if you haven't started it yet. Daily Streaker, 7 days in a row. If you log in today, and you had logged in today, and you log in for the next 7 days or 6 continuing days, that would take you to the 30th, and that would get you to the 7 days streak. So you still have a chance to do this. If you haven't done it yet, keep logging in for the next 6 days in addition to today, and you could have a total of 7 days in a row logged in. You can check this box off. Property Pioneer, mint 3 properties during the season. That's an easy one. Go and mint 3 properties. Ornamental Touch. Ornamental Touch, apply a harvest ornament to your property for 3 weeks. You can't do that by the 31st, but if you do that today, you can do it by the 15th of November. That is the end of harvest season. Collection Conqueror, complete 5 collections in the game of Upland for the very first time. This is not an easy task to do because realistically it requires you buying a certain number of properties. If you hold a number of properties and just haven't completed collections, it could be free. But if that isn't the case, if you don't have a bunch of unchecked collections now, you're going to have to go buy some properties. So it may not be a cheap completion. It may not be a cheap task to complete. There are other ways to get collections. You can trade collections you have to someone else so you can get a new collection. You could sell properties and then use the proceeds of selling those properties to buy new properties if you're moving from one city to the next in the game of Upland. There are ways other than opening your pocketbook up, of course, to complete 5 collections, but it does take, in many cases, some wheeling and dealing, some buying and some selling, or at the very least some buying to get there to the 5 new collections. Secondary Market Specialist, buy 5 properties on the secondary market. Well, go figure. That kind of plays into the Collection Conqueror. If you're buying on a secondary, if you're not minting to get these collections, you could be completing both at the same time. That is kind of one of the caveats here, is that even though a lot of these tasks require that you're spending UPIX or USD, some of them do overlap. And again, you could do both of these between now and the 30th if you haven't started either. MetaVenture Shopper, buy 3 items from MetaVenture Shops. This is a relatively easy one to check off. It's relatively inexpensive because there's a lot of items in MetaVenture Shops that are not that expensive. If you own properties now and you're moving your assets around, you're willing to sell some properties to buy some assets, you could definitely do that. If you are somebody who owns one type of asset and you're considering selling those and buying new ones, that's an option there as well. That wouldn't cost any new UPIX, it wouldn't cost any new USD. It would require getting rid of some assets to get new ones. And of course, if you have a daily dividend and you're earning UPIX along the way just for holding the properties you already have, you may be earning enough UPIX along the way to complete some of these tasks, inclusive of buying three items from MetaVentures, which could cost you less than 1,000 UPIX a piece. Could cost you considerably more depending on what you're looking to buy. MetaVenture Shopper, again, does have the potential to be done between now and the 30th if you haven't started now. City Builder, complete construction in 3 different cities. The trick with this is we do have a significant amount of incentive to build in New Orleans. However, if you are going to build a quick structure like a micro house in 2 other cities, one in one city, one in another, and then get back to New Orleans, it's not going to waste too much time of your spark hours being outside of New Orleans. It'll be 1,000 total spark hours required, 500 for one micro house, 500 for the other, and then back to New Orleans to focus your main energies, as that is where there are additional incentives for continuing to construct at this time. SPH Staker, again, stake 150 hours during this season. Again, that is something that ties into the City Builder. That's why I brought up City Builder before the SPH Staker, because if you are a City Builder, if you're building structures, you're also checking this off along the way. That is two things that you would have to complete in order to get 150 spark hours or if you get 150 spark hours, you are going to be getting towards, but not necessarily completing the city builder. You have to have more than 150 spark hours staked in order to hit city builder, unless you have 3 structures that are almost complete. You just complete them. But to build one structure is more than 150 spark hours. So if you're doing city builder, more than likely you're doing SPH staker as well. Referral ambassador, this is something that is difficult because it requires that somebody other than you takes a referral from you and then levels up. Again, it's not always easy. If you've been playing the game long enough, maybe you've referred every single person you're ever going to refer. You could find new ways to find new people and refer those people. You could meet someone on the street and maybe they seem to like Upland or the concept thereof, and maybe they join the game of Upland with a referral code and they get to Uplander status. And so long as they do that within this season, you do get that referral bonus, and that is going to be the additional referral bonus is this referral ambassador. You get that check mark for your task. Mystery mission. Weekly bonus missions are added every week on Tuesday. We've had 2 so far. The third will be this coming Tuesday. The first bonus mission as of Tuesday the 8th, bridging 100 Sparklet before the end of the season. Again, 100 Sparklet into the game of Upland. That means you purchase them outside the game of Upland. You bridge them into the game. Bonus mission number 2, you burn or exchange 3 items. And this is an interesting thing. This overlapped with the Purge. We'll get into that in a second, but it overlapped with the Purge. If you burnt 3 block explorers for the Purge, you also completed bonus mission number 2, which was burn or exchange 3 items by the end of the season for an additional check mark on your task. The key note here is, again, if you participate in the Purge, which is still open now, you get this task done, check mark. You've done 2 different elements of the game of Upland. You have completed or burnt 3 of your 5 block explorers, your Halloween block explorers, to get another block explorer. You've earned 3 entries at that point. So there is another layer that you're doing with the Purge. And like I said, we'll get into what the bonus that Upland has put out for that is. But now we're doing 2 things at the same time. There's other tasks that fall into the same aspect. Like I said, if you are building structures in New Orleans, that is helping you along the way to getting some more Sparklet at the end of the run up to the Super Bowl this year, or the run up to the big game if we listen to Upland in their language, because Upland doesn't have a NFL partnership. They have the NFLPA, which doesn't have the rights to the name of the game. But let's take a look at that new update for the Purge. So with the Purge, this is something that we've earned. We've earned something. What we've earned is we have spent 666. I say spent, burnt 666 cumulatively as a group, and then some of these Halloween block explorers from 2022 Uncannies. Let's get into that Purge and get some more details. The request or the contest or the event. The event was to burn these very common, and I say very common, meaning they were the most common at the time, block explorers, 2,777 of each of these 3 designs. Uncanny versions of the 2022 Halloween block explorers. They were one of them was called the Creepy Kid, while the other was called the Pumpkin Man, and the other was the Zombie. Again, the uncanny versions, which there was 2,777 of each of these designs. And of those designs, Upland is looking, I apologize, 2,666. Go figure, it's Halloween. The 666 was there the whole time. So 2,666 mints of each was what was out there for the Creepy Kid, the Pumpkin Man, and the Zombie. Originally, Upland gave us a couple tasks. The first task is burn some of these. The second task is cumulatively as a group, if we can burn 666 of these, we get a bonus. Let's take a look at how that bonus was originally set up and codified again. This bonus is kind of fun. The idea with the bonus was if we do this together, then everybody who participates gets a share in this additional reward. As a community, if we burn 666 block explorers of these uncanny 2022 Halloween block explorers, a bonus reward is unlocked. Plus 25 SPH, again, plus 25 spark hour equivalents added to your profile or added to your score for the road to the big game, which we already talked about, is this layer building contest headed up to the Super Bowl 2025, or as we could say, it was headed up to the big game for the NFLPA season. You're going to be getting more points towards your overall payout, or to help build towards your payout of that airdrop that's going to happen at the end of the season, or end of the football season this year anyways. This is something that people are already building towards. So 25 additional for each of your burnt block explorers. We cumulatively, clap for everybody involved, we cumulatively burnt more than 666. And we'll look at the entire total amount at this point, but 666 block explorers was the request. We exceeded that. So boom, we get the reward, plus 25 spark hour equivalent for every block explorer that you individually burnt towards your score for the New Orleans Road to the Big Game leaderboard. Now, what Upland didn't do is give us a stretch goal. We hit the 666 early on. Now, to keep people invested in this burn event, there is a stretch goal. Here's a stretch goal. If the community burns 1,000 of each of the 3 eligible block explorers, it's a pretty big stretch goal if you think about it. We start with 666 total of 3 different designs. And then we take that to 1,000 each. So we go from 666 total to at least 3,000 total. It's a big ask. It's a big ask. It's a big stretch. But if you do that, you're going to double the SPH earnings per block explorer. Instead of 25 spark hours per block explorer burnt, it is going to be a 50 spark hour equivalent per block explorer burnt. I'm going to give you a caveat. The caveat is that's not a lot of spark hour equivalent if you think about it, because 1 spark burnt for 2 days is 48 spark hour equivalent. If you have 11 spark and you're burning and you're using that spark for 2 days, and now we're looking at over 500 spark hour equivalent. So again, this is less than 2 days equivalent if you had burnt 10. Had you burnt 10, less than 2 days equivalent worth of your 11 spark hours, if that's where you are at this time. So it really isn't that much for a larger player who would be in a better position to burn 9 or 10 of these block explorers, but it is something. You'll gain a bonus. You did something in one category. You're getting points towards another category of gameplay in the game. And I really appreciate that crossover. Tree, is good to see you. I really appreciate that crossover because that means that there is an incentive to be a part of multiple aspects of the game. We've said for years, as the game continues to diversify, it's harder and harder for people to be a part of every single part of the game. But if you give people an incentive to be in multiple parts of the game, that is how you get people to be more involved in the game overall, and that's what's happening right here. So what do we have to do? How far do we have to go to get from the 666 total burnt, which was the first goal, to the 1,000 each? Well, the best way to look at that is where we are at the moment. Where we're at the moment currently is there are 674 creepy kids burnt, 644 of the pumpkin man, and 577 of the zombie. As of right now, they're not perfectly even, but it's not like one of them is lagging behind by 40%. It's not like we have one that is almost at the 1,000 and one that's barely cracking 100. So it's definitely possible that all 3 could exceed 1,000 total burnt block explorers, giving us a total of 3,000 burnt, giving us that additional incentive of 25 spark hour equivalents per block explorer that we individually had burnt. And let's take a look again at the parameters of this contest to see what we're looking at. The parameters of the contest run until Thursday, October the 24th at 9 a.m. PT. That is 3 days from now, as far as my counting goes. You have that opportunity to continue to burn these. If there's people who have not heard about this contest yet, they have the chance to hear of the contest and burn. If you are somebody who has burnt every single one of these uncannies that you have time to acquire more if you choose to do so. That's something you're trying to do. And if you're somebody who's on the fence about burning the ones you have now, you have 3 days to see this sitting there, to see that goal kind of hanging out and decide if it's worth it for you. The reality-wise, if we're talking about the value of this Block Explorer being burnt versus not being burnt, is it worth giving up the value of 5 or 6 or 7,000 UPIX? Ultimately, the value of these Block Explorers is up to the market. It keeps changing. It definitely did shift up. The floor definitely did get bought up as we saw an incentive to burn them. We saw that more and more of these uncanny 2022 Halloween Block Explorers left the market. I mean, people buying them, as we saw more and more of them getting burnt. Go figure. We created an incentive to burn these, which created a demand for the Block Explorer, which pushed the price up. That's kind of how things work. The one thing I do want to let people know or have people keep in mind, this is a temporary demand. It doesn't mean that if you buy and hold on now, it's going to be worth more in 2 weeks. More than likely, as demand wanes, the value, the price, the market cost could go down. So keep that in mind. But that also means that if you're buying them today, you could be buying them at a higher price than you buy them in a week, because you're buying them with this inflated demand. You're buying them with this inflated utility that you can only do now that you can't do later. You just have to decide if that's a utility, if that's a burn you want to do. But now comes the bigger value, right? The first value is I'm burning to get this 50 spark hour equivalent. Again, if we get enough burn, this 50 spark hour equivalent for Block Explorer burn. But that's not all. What is in addition to in this burn contest? We've already gone over it, but it is the Gallier Hall. Gallier Hall is a historic landmark in New Orleans. It is a haunted or a spooky landmark, as it is rumored to have been haunted by generations of ghosts dating back to the Civil Wars. It is a hall that has hosted funerals that date all the way back to the Civil War and preceding. There was Civil War events in the area, and again, it has been a part of history overall in New Orleans, and it has been host to, again, countless sightings of ghosts and otherwise over the ghosts and haunts and otherwise, I should say, over the last 150 years. So that being a reality, it kind of ties in well to Halloween, and it is a great prize. It is valued at 1,624,180 UPX. Could be valued higher than that because landmarks are special. Landmarks are special because they get their own custom one-of-one structure that can be built on them. They're special because they have a special designation when you see them on the map that, ooh, there's something special here. And again, they have a tie to history. They have a name recognition that really makes them stand out as being special as well. Upland has talked about having landmarks potentially have enhanced utility. At this point, we see that, having a cafe or having a theater looks like it is the same level of utility that Upland had previously kind of associated with potentially being available for landmarks. But you still have that notoriety. You still have the name recognition. And that one-of-one structure doesn't hurt. And then Upland has not precluded the idea of citing a theater or a cafe at one of these locations. It makes it more visible on the map. It gives you that potential of doing that special structure if Upland ever opens up the potential long-term of doing that enhanced utility for the inside space in that custom structure as opposed to a cafe type structure. But this is a great prize to begin with. Every time you burn a Block Explorer during this event, you're getting one entry. It is not the person who burns the most who wins this wonderful landmark. It is the person who gets lucky and has one of their entries pulled. That means a person who burns one Block Explorer could win this structure. Is somebody who burns 50 going to have more entries? Absolutely. If you want more entries, more opportunities to win, you burn more Block Explorers. So there's the reality why people are going to want to burn many of these Block Explorers, more entries. We know that people have spent plenty of money on lottery tickets just to win nothing. You could burn plenty of Block Explorers just to win nothing. If you got the UPIX sitting around, that's the reason why these Block Explorers, the floor on these Block Explorers is going up, because more people are buying the floor up and pushing the floor up. But there's one more bonus here. If you haven't seen it yet, if you haven't gone over it yet, if you haven't looked at this announcement yet, there is that little bit of a bonus for doing more than just the minimum. The minimum, you burn one, you get an entry. If you're going to burn 5 or more, you're going to get yourself a better a better prize along the way. And that prize is burn 5 or more, and you are going to get one of these block explorers, either the Phantom Steed block explorer or the Nightwing Terror block explorer. If you burn 10, you don't get 2. You burn 5, you get 1. You're gonna be randomized between getting the Phantom Steed and the Nightwing Terror. Okay. And I do want to look at something real quick that kind of gives us an idea of who's burning multiples and who's not. And then, of course, if you do go ahead and you come and you burn at least 3 block explorers, again, not a total of 5, but 3 of these block explorers or more, you're going to get one of these Halloween Purge badges. So these Purge badges. It's a jack-o'-lantern. It says Purge badge underneath. It'll be on your profile forevermore, just commemorating the season. So what's key here is it's a layer. It's a layer of utility, or a layer of advantages, layer of prizes for different ways of participating or different levels of participation. Burn 1, you get an entry. Burn 3, you get the badge. Burn 5, you get one of the block explorers, and it stacks along the way. Burn the most of everybody, you have more entries. You don't guarantee yourself any major or giant prize. Well, let's go up and take a look at the leaderboard, because this tells me that there's 339 different players who burned a Creepy Kid. There's 323 different players who burned a Pumpkin Man. There's 307 different players who burned a zombie. Of the 307 players who burned a zombie, there are 577 total burn. That means on average, people are burning 2 or less zombies. On average, people are burning 2 or less Pumpkin Man. On average, people are burning 2 or less Creepy Kids. If the 339 people are in the same group of people who of the 323 that burnt the Pumpkin Man, and of the same group that 307 that burnt the zombie, then average people are burning 6 and hitting the 5. If that's not the case, and we know it's not, that means that on average people are burning about 3 to 4 block explorer on average, between 3 and 4. So not everyone is hitting that block explorer redemption. Maybe they've got a couple more to burn. Maybe they'll acquire a couple more. But that still is a little bit of exclusivity. That still is not everybody who is going to be hitting the level of burn that's going to get them one of these block explorers. So you still have the opportunity for these potentially to be relatively limited. The more people that burn 5 or more, the more of these block explorers that'll be distributed. The more people who burn 5 or more, the higher the likelihood is that we'll get 1,000 burn of each of the 3, and therefore go up to 50 from the 30. The cumulative awards, they do tend to incentivize a higher amount of participation. WW Dog, quite a few of those BEs sitting in the shops with unpaid dues. Be careful not to waste your sends. Well said. Yeah. Yes. So know what's going on. You can see if the shop is available and active. You can check an active status of a Block Explorer shop before heading. Obviously, if the shop is not active, you can't purchase from it. Go figure. Pay your dues if you have a shop. They're never that expensive. I know I've been paying mine right on through. I know people parked assets in shops and left them there for months and months and months, and then they become more valuable. These Block Explorers did become more valuable because there was a demand. There was a reason for them to be sold, and that's why more of them are being sold now than they had been for months and months previous. Let's again, as WW Dog says, keep in mind that if a Block Explorer shop is not active, you cannot purchase from it. Go to a shop that is going to be able to sell to you, and there are ways to verify that. And it includes checking in with the owner before you head. That also include checking the active status of the store. The active status of the store, which you should be able to do from the store tab in the game. What I do want to look at here as well, the one other thing I do want to look at is kind of the why of this as well. I mean, it's nice that Upland did this. There was a popular demand for a very long time to try to remove some of these Block Explorers from this specific 2022 Uncanny series. And the reason why there was such a strong urge to do so is because these were some of the highest, broadest circulated Block Explorers that had ever existed in the game of Upland. In some ways, they changed the scale of the total number of Block Explorers that were available. There was some speculation, or there was some opinion, that they affected the overall value of Block Explorers by making them seem less exclusive, which That was why block explorers had value in the first place. There was a secondary market for block explorers because it was hard to acquire some. And then you make it easier, or you make things, broader availability, and you lose some of that exclusivity and you change the value. And yeah, maybe there's more overall value in the market, but it's split up among more block explorers. Reality was there didn't need to be 2,666 of each of these 3 block explorers. The market didn't demand it, but it was given out in an overall sale. There was some higher exclusive block explorers mixed in and other assets. So people went and bought those packages, and then a lot of these block explorers were distributed overall in those bundles. So now we end up with a glut of these. Now that Upland is going and having a real reason to burn these, or creating an incentive for people to burn theirs, that is going to reduce the overall stock and the supply. What does it do to the value long term? That depends on the market. The market can decide what to do if there's only 1,666 of the Creepy Kid left, as opposed to 2,666. How does the market treat that? The less supply, does that mean it's worth more? Does some of the inflated value of the Creepy Kid, because of the run up of value, because of this incentivized event, does some of that stay? Does it all go away? Do we settle somewhere in between, the original price or the previous price and the current inflated price? Does it settle somewhere in between, or does it go all the way back down to what the original price was? We'll have to see. Again, it's up to the market, and it's up to everybody who's playing the game at this time and moving forward. Gnome and Candle asks, do we have to burn additional ones now to get credit for the second round of the extra sparklet? I've already burned 10. No, you're not going to have to participate. This is essentially a back to square one. So, or back to first participant. So if you burnt 10 and you don't have any more to burn, you don't have to burn more. What you have to do is hope that other people burn 10. Realistically, if we look at the number total of people that have participated, and we're saying that of the people that have participated, 339 people with Creepy Kid, 323 with Pumpkin Man, 307 with Zombie. Theoretically, if each of those people, like you burnt 10 total, if each of those people burnt 10 total and they distributed it 3 of each, then we just about be at 1,000 of each of these burnt. Theoretically, if we're not there for each of these, which I don't, by averages, we're not, what we need to see is we need to see either the people who've already burnt some burn more, or more correctly, a larger degree of Upland players who haven't burned any yet to burn some. So again, this is not a call to action. This is not a, if you haven't participated, you must participate because you got to take care of the community. This is more of a, this is how we get there. If you want to get there 1,000 zombies burned, well, you have to have 433 more burnt. 423 more burnt if we want to get to 1,000 zombies burnt. This is delayed as far as this data. So people may have been burning zombies right through, and those not have shown up yet. Pumpkin Man, Creepy Kid, same way. But if we want to get, or if the community wants to get to 1,000 burn, obviously people have to burn more. Whether that is you, Gnome, who's already burnt 10, again, it sounds like you've already done your fair share, or if that's going to be somebody different, that has to depend on the people who are participating, either you or the other person, or all the other people who've just see the extra incentive hit the ground. This incentive came out this morning. This is something that maybe not everyone's seen. Maybe people see this incentive going from 25 to 50, and they say, ooh, at 25, I wasn't going to participate as heavily, but at 50, I am. We'll have to see how people play with that. And again, as I noted, 50 spark hours added to your score. That alone is not a huge bonus, if you ask me. When you pair it with all the other things going on, if you're going from 3 to 5, you're going from getting a badge to getting a block explorer. If you're going from getting 3 entries to 5 entries. If you're going from 3 entries to 5 entries, and we happen to hit 1,000 of each, and now we go from 25 each to 50 each, that stacking benefit, that may be enough to, encourage you to burn one more or two more. But again, it's just entirely up to the individual, with the reality that burning is permanent. You burnt your Block Explorer, you burnt 5, you burnt 7 instead of 5 because you wanted 2 more entries. You're not going to get those 7 back. You're not going to get the value back from them. If you win the landmark, you'll feel awfully happy, obviously. And it will be worth it for you, but they're going to be every other player who's burnt Block Explorers, every other player who's burnt Block Explorers other than you, they're not going to win the landmark. So that's an important thing to note when we look at these burn contests, especially without any additional incentive to burn. And there is additional incentive to burn. There's limited incentive to burn more than 5, but there are reasons to go from 1 to 3 to 5. And then past 5, that's entirely extra entries into this contest and more Spark Hour equivalent to your New Orleans builds for the run up to the Super Bowl, the lead up to the big game contest for New Orleans building. The purge will continue on until till Thursday. So you do have till Thursday to burn, as mentioned before. Let's take a look at the one more piece. Monday Watch Party. Yeah, Monday Watch Party we already know about. That's going to be every Monday throughout the season. We already mentioned that this is something where we have this road to the big game that's ongoing right now that is tied to the NFLPA, that is tied to Upland sponsorship or Upland's partnership with the NFL Players Association. That's why we have this eyes on the prize of the NFL season, what is excitement of the sport of American football. That's the reason why Upland is incentivizing people watching and being part of the conversation. If you participate and you're part of the conversation in the Monday Night Watch Party, 7 players will each earn 10,000 UPIX or be awarded 10,000 UPIX for their participation in that conversation. Keeping in mind, it's 11 p.m. Eastern time. It is 8:30 p.m. Eastern West Coast time. At that time, we're past the game time. We're heading past the game time on Mondays. So you have to participate earlier on the Mondays. Keep that in mind for next Monday coming around. We'll continue to see that incentive, likely 7 players getting 10,000 UPIX each just for making those comments during the game and being part of that conversation. The landmark prop is pretty nice. Yes, it is Gnome. I've been seeing a lot of free Sparklet being placed on my builds in New Orleans. Pretty cool. That's very cool, Gnome. So again, this is something that people are going to get their incentive for spending Sparklet or staking Sparklet in New Orleans, period. If you don't have properties in New Orleans and you know somebody that you want to stake a Sparklet on, more power to you. If you want to participate in one of the Spark rental programs that there are out there, you may get compensation for staking your Spark. If you stake your Spark for free, somebody you know, somebody you like, somebody who you appreciate, and you just put your Sparklet on theirs, they're not necessarily going to pay you for it, but you are going to get an incentive in the form of the Road to the Big Game contest, the Road to the Big Game leaderboard, earning stake Spark along the way, which is going to help you get a bonus of an airdrop that is going to happen as part of this Road to the Big Game. We cumulatively, as we continue to put effort as a group, we continually build towards a larger pool of Sparklet paid out after the Road to the Big Game or after the big game. So that is something that is building, and it is tied to all these other contests along the way. And since we're talking about New Orleans, because that is where the Road to the Big Game contest is centered, and that's where the big game will be for 2025, let's talk about something that we just missed or just ended, and we are going to likely see more of. We just had the condo end, the opportunity to start construction of a unique structure in the city of New Orleans. The condo, they had this was an opportunity for about a week to get that started. If you have started, you have continued opportunity to build that until it's fully constructed, but it did have to be started before today at 9 a.m. PT. That's going to be something we're going to continue to see throughout the season. I expect that we're going to see additional. Upland's already had a couple, and we expect a few more that are going to be unique structures in New Orleans. You have to start at a specific period of time or inside of a specific window with the open window to continue to construct it until it's constructed by the end of the season, or I should say forever, but the end of the season if you're trying to get those leaderboard points for the New Orleans run up to the big game 2025. Other than that, we do continue to see the game march on. We do continue to see harvest season march on. The reason why we covered up front the task for harvest season 2024 was because you still have time now to get in for the airdrop snapshot on the 30th of October. That airdrop snapshot is specific for those who had Sparklet they had earned prior to the TGE in the game of Upland, prior to the listing of Sparklet outside the game. If you did have Sparklet you had earned inside the game, if you had kept that Sparklet in the game and hadn't removed it from the game, you are going to get a reward for doing so. Your Upland's going to do an airdrop with a snapshot on the 30th of September, and then an additional one on the 15th of November. And then you have a multiplier that you're going to earn. And that multiplier you're going to earn is going to be based on those tasks that you've completed. The more tasks you complete, the higher that multiplier. That's why we incentivize, or that's why we encourage so strongly the participation in these tasks, in the seasonal tasks, because there are significant rewards for doing so. We have 2 airdrops this season in the harvest season. Again, one snapshot on the 30th of September, one snapshot on the 15th of November, and then 2 additional in Wonderland season, one snapshot on the 30th of December, and then additional on the 15th of January. So this is something where we have continued reason to participate in these tasks along the way. And I did want to kind of highlight this tonight, and I hope I did, is a lot of these tasks are tied into other contests that are ongoing. I like this matrix. I love this idea that if you do things in multiple areas of the game of Upland, you continue to get rewarded in different ways. You can overlap your efforts in one area, apply them to another, and again, kind of stack those rewards as you go through the game. And I hope Upland keeps this going. I hope this is a big check mark for them, for something that they want to see continue. And again, the more successful people are with these contests, the more they participate, hopefully the more Upland continues these types of reward programs. So for tonight, thank you so much for being here Monday through Friday, 7:30 p.m. PT in the Upland Cafe on Discord, and obviously on YouTube, on Twitter, in the Upland Plaza on Tuesdays and Fridays. We do get together, cover the daily news, go over a few things with context, some interviews along the way, which I'd like to get back into more, and a few other things coming down the road. Gnome drops in. I just started playing Gun Tech 2.5. It's actually a really fun game with Upland tie. And again, that is the reality. There are a lot of layer 2s that are out there, Gnome. Thanks for dropping that in there. Now, we talk about the layer 2s every once in a while, but yes, there's plenty of layer 2s. Upland's doing layer 1 contests. There are ways that these activities overlap with each other. And again, you can have value and earning in multiple avenues along the way. And again, hopefully have some stackability of the earnings. Good to see you, Wolf Warren. I'm glad you can make it. And then for tonight, again, the one thing I do want to end with is an announcement. And that announcement is for the third. Wow, third? Is that right? Fourth? It feels like forever. We're going to go with 4th. Wow, we are going with 4th. For the 4th year in a row, woo, or 4th time doing it anyways. I guess not 4th year in a row, but 4th year doing it. We'll be doing a Halloween. Yeah, Christmas. There we go. That's the one. A holiday party later this fall or into Wonderland season. Getting more details put together for that. Doing a little bit different methodology because we have different ways of displaying activities. We have different ways of sharing community and doing events, and we'll see that kind of sugar out here. So I do kind of want to put this point out there that we have more ways of connecting and different venues and different ways of doing so. And we will be seeing that and trying to put that together for myself and a partner we're working with for years to put together one of those events coming up. And again, I did the math wrong. I'll do the math right, however I want to do it. 4th time we're running the event. I guess it dates back 3 years. I guess that's right. Dates back 3 years. That makes this the 4th of its kind being held. We'll get into more details as we get there. But expect a large holiday celebration event. If you were around last year, the year before that, and you saw those events and you saw the types of prizes that were given away and the way contests were held, expect more of the same. Expect the guests that we had. Expect, potential participation from the team. Expect people who are in layer twos, putting out what projects they're working on, but also a lot of games and fun and ways for people to earn and spend time together, all at the same time. Open communication channels, a lot going on there. So we will see how that sugars out. I'll get more information for you as we have it. But for tonight, thank you so much for being here. Hope to see you tomorrow. If you're in the Upland Cafe chat, as always, feel free to unmute your mics. The floor is yours.